because not only is it a date that we now associate as the Yortzeit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but there's a little history to that date. And let's just go all the way back when we know that the Yidden were in the Midbar and they were getting all ready to go into Eretz Yisrael. We know that a few weeks back, Moshe was even speaking about all the enemies falling in front of the Jewish people who were going to march right into Eretz Yisrael. And then they didn't march right on into Eretz Yisrael. They actually spent 40 years in the desert. But then Yehoshua leads them in, and in one of the battles where Yehoshua is encountering obstructions, enemy resisting. So that was Gimel Tammuz, a day of Gimel Tammuz, and it says that Yehoshua made a request, or somehow the sun didn't set until the battle was won for Yehoshua. So the sun was sort of held up in the sky so that it didn't set until the battle was won. That's one story of Gimel Tammuz. There's another story of Gimel Tammuz involving the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, the very words Frierdiker means, I guess, previous in Yiddish. So that would be Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, that he, and welcome to Dina Bracha. She came late, but welcome to Dina Bracha and to Melissa, who I believe is on. That's Melissa's number, right? 949. I think that's Melissa's number.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yes.
So the Frierdiker Rebbe, as part of the whole establishment of Lubavitch, really was in Russia, underground, trying to keep Yiddishkeit alive despite this whole communist enterprise that was really committed to getting rid of any kind of Yiddishkeit. So in the Lubavitch dynasty, there were many rebbes who had different interactions with the political echelons. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, the way it was, so people are familiar with the story, but he was orchestrating money to be given over to sorry, I don't want to get mixed up with all my details, but anyway, he was arrested because he was teaching Judaism to underground, and he was actually going to be executed for activities against the state. And on Gimel Tammuz of that year, his sentence was changed. Instead of being executed, that he would be exiled. And then it so happened that things shifted, and within 10 days, he was actually free. So that's Yud Gimel Tammuz, which is Yud Beis Tammuz and Yud Gimel Tammuz, which are big holidays in Lubavitch. But the Gimel Tammuz was the day that his sentence was changed from being executed to being just exiled, which was a huge improvement, of course. And then Yud Beis Tammuz is considered the festival of liberation, and Yud Gimel. So sort of began, and he received the good news on Yud Beis, and then on Yud Gimel he was actually freed. So both of these days of Gimel Tammuz have some connection with Yehoshua. The light was extended with the Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson. There was a great revelation of light that enabled his sentence, that his sentence wasn't severe and execution, but exile, and then even that got changed to freedom. And then we have Gimel Tammuz being the anniversary of our Rebbe's passing. And similar to when we talk about Lag BaOmer, everybody talks very happily about the fact that the light of Rebbe Shimon is shining. And when he passed away, he told all of his followers, don't mourn my passing, because my soul is going to be reunited with its source, and I don't want anyone to feel bad, and it should be a celebration. And So those things, that's really the underpinnings of the whole holiday of Lag BaOmer. But it's true for every single soul that passes away, not just Rabbi Shimon, just Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. He's the one that made a big point and said, don't mourn, celebrate. My soul is, going to be relieved from its bondage in a physical self, and it's going back to source, and it will be a great celebration. But so too for every single neshama, when it passes from this world, it goes, we don't say there's life after death. There is no death. There's life after life, or there's continuous life. It's just in a different realm. So the idea of a yortzeit is the anniversary of when the soul is, taken back home, so to speak. And on that yortzeit, it's taught to us that the light of the person's essence shines very brightly on that day. So on a birthday, there is a connection to the person's light. That's when the person's neshama came down into this world. And really, it's become more of a Jewish thing to celebrate birthdays. I think the Baal Shem Tov was quite into it. And then the Rebbe, our Rebbe, picked up on it and said birthdays are really important days. That's the day that your neshama got its sort of mission coming down into this world. But all the accomplishments of your life, for however long it is, somehow on the day of the yortzeit, it shines very brightly. So Gimel Tammuz now is a day that people can acknowledge and feel the light of the Rebbe's teachings and the light of his impact. And certainly people on this chat, if I look through the people that are on the chat, I think everybody has been quite affected by the Rebbe in some way, either by his shluchim or by interactions and connection with the Rebbe himself, or going to the Ohel and getting a sense of guidance and strength from the Rebbe in that way. But certainly the Rebbe's impact on Jewry in the modern times is unprecedented, really. When they look at and take different censuses of Jewish life in America and affiliations to organizations or people who identify as Jewish and people who identify as connected with the shul, the numbers of people whose lives have been affected by Chabad and whose identity to Judaism has been affected by Chabad, it's an incredible number. Like Chabad is really the leading kind of identity anchor for Judaism in the Western world, really, in the whole world at this point in time. So it's quite amazing. So when it's dark, we'll say L'chaim, that the Rebbe's neshama should have an aliyah. But let's just go to the Hayom Yom for today, which, well, actually tonight. Let's do we'll do today, and then we'll do tonight and tomorrow. So for today, which is Gimel, Beis Tammuz. So in a Chabad Siddur, which is following the Alter Rebbe's Nusach, the formatting of the Alter Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe wrote in the Siddur that it's proper to say before davening, Hareini makabel alai mitzvat aseh shel v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, that I'm taking on myself the positive commandment of loving another Jew as myself. That everybody who's using a Chabad Siddur or a Arizal Siddur would say this at the beginning of davening.
There's something like that before Baruch Shamar. Also, it says Hareini, right? Hareini mizam minute, right? Something like that.
Oh, I'm going to be unifying the first two letters of Hashem's name with the second two letters of Hashem's name. But here, Hareini Makabel Elai, I'm taking on myself this mitzvah of V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. By
Got
the
it.
way, this is compared to when a Yid would bring a korban to the Mishkan, and they would check the korban and make sure it doesn't have any blemish on it before it could be offered in the Mishkan. So in a way, when we say that, we are the korban, so to speak, and by making that proclamation, we're checking ourselves for any blemish, that we shouldn't be holding a grudge or a angry feeling or something that should be like a blemish on our animal reality, our animal soul, before we go off and daven. So it's very beautiful that that's what we say. This is the precept of Avos Yisrael, which is the entry gate through which man can pass to stand before Hashem to daven. By merit of that love, the worshipper's prayer is accepted. So I don't know if you've noticed in these Hayom Yoms how many we have mentioned lately, or maybe it's always been this way, about Avos Yisrael. I mean, I don't know if you're starting to pay attention, but so many of them have been, for example, we had that one, which is more worthy, love of Hashem or love of people or love of Torah. And then we got the answer that you have to love who Hashem loves, and he loves Bnei Israel. So you have to love Bnei Israel. And we've had many other Hayom Yoms that are pointing to this enormous importance of community and of thinking of other people in a way of connection and attachment, and that it's not a small thing, that this is very much a part of a Hasidic approach to loving God and loving his Torah, is to love the manifestations of God in each one of us and to see each of us as special and unique, and to connect and bond and try and do a favor, a chesed. We also said one of the Hayom Yoms that your whole soul could exist in this world. You could be alive for 70 or 80 years just to do one favor for another person. Can you imagine that? Let's say your whole life you've spent and you haven't done much good, but you do one favor for another person. That could be the reason for your whole existence, was to do that favor. So, wow, it's not a small thing to be concerned about taking care of other people, being kind to other people, being conscious of being kind to other people, feeling love in your heart for other people, not holding a grudge, etc., etc. So not a small thing at all. Okay, so that was the Hayom Yom for yesterday. And then the Hayom Yom, now we clarified that all of these sayings were put together by Menachem Mendel on instructions by the Frierdiker Rebbe, Yosef Yitzchak, who said to him, make a compilation of short Hasidic teachings such that there'll be one for each day. So it was an instruction from the Frierdiker Rebbe, but our Rebbe was the one who looked for the quotes and put them in this order. So the quote that he put for Gimel Tammuz was as follows. My grandfather said, a Jewish groan, which chas v'shalom arises from physical misfortune, is also a great teshuvah. How much more so then is a groan arising from spiritual distress, a lofty and effective teshuvah. The groan pulls him out of the depths of evil and places him on a firm footing in the realm of good. So a krecht, as they say in Yiddish, a krecht, a Yiddish krecht, like a oy vavoy, or a oy oy oy, or a oh my gosh, or, like a krecht is something that you feel is coming from your gut. It's a regret or a sense of despair, distress is actually can be the beginning of a great beginning of tshuva. That if you push to a real krecht, a real groan, that can be the beginning of tshuva, which is interesting. I mean, you could say, what's that got to do with Gimel Tammuz? But plenty of people krecht and groan because the Rebbe left us or parted or passed away on Gimel Tammuz. But, we haven't we haven't arrived into messianic times, and so people pass away. That's the reality of where we are until the reality is going to shift. Now, because we're Jews and because we've been exposed to mystical Torah, we do believe that that reality is going to shift. That the reality of how we live in this world, which is that after 120, we pass away, and, that's it for this Gilgul until our neshama might come back in another Gilgul. Who knows? The Rebbe said that for many of our neshamas, this is the last Gilgul. But in the reality of the world as we know it, so people pass away after their lives are led. But we are fast approaching an alternative reality, right? We should be aware of that and realizing that time and space are going to change. The reality is time is not going to be so fixed. Space is not going to be so fixed. And lifetimes are not going to be so cut and dried. And we're going to be more connected to the fact that it's not a new reality that there's not going to be death. It's actually an old reality that's sort of hidden. In other words, as it is in our reality now, we don't die after 120. Our body no longer is attached to our soul, and our body gets buried in a kever, in a grave. People can visit the grave, and the soul lives on in a higher dimension. So as we get closer and closer to Mashiach, that reality of the soul living on becomes more and more clear. What does it mean that when Mashiach comes and beyond, there's not going to be death? Well, it's interesting to contemplate that already on a soul level, there's not death. So maybe the veils between this world and the next world will be much thinner, or maybe won't be there at all. Just like in a physical sense, what's that veil around the sun that's getting thinner and thinner? Sandra knows, but she's muted. What's it called? Where in Australia it's much thinner, so they sunburn much.
The ozone layer.
The ozone layer.
Oh, the
Thank
ozone.
you. The ozone layer. It's getting thinner and thinner, right? So in a similar way, the veils between this world and higher worlds is going to get thinner and thinner. So a lot of the things that are predicted for messianic times becoming more and more within our realm of reach. So because the Rebbe discussed Mashiach so many times, and he wanted people to talk about Mashiach so much, and he was so dedicated to the idea of Mashiach so much, I feel like it's fitting on his yortzeit to just speak a little bit more about some of the things that are going to happen when Mashiach comes. So when Mashiach comes, it says that, healthcare will be completely different. We will be doing preventative medicine. We will have energy medicine. We'll have light medicine. We'll have ultraviolet medicine. We'll have all these crazy things. Well, we're seeing all that already. I don't know if people are connected to this, but all of these things are already happening. There's healing going on with different machines and infrared, and I knew Karen would like that. And there's a lot of things that in the health realm are showing us so much of that transition. And also the economic system, money is going to be very different. And a lot of things that have been predicted as messianic realities, if you open your eyes, you'll see many of those things coming on board even now. For example, knowledge of God is going to cover the face of the earth, like the oceans cover the sea, like the oceans cover the seabed. Can you believe it that in our times, anything you want to know at any time of the day, if you have a cell phone that has AI, you can just click on Google and you can literally pull up any fact about anything at any time. It's astounding.
Won't always be
Imagine
right, but
how
mostly be right.
reality, sorry?
Use it all day long.
Won't always be right, but it will mostly be right. But
It's
if
not
I-
always right,
it's wrong
but
sometimes.
Usually
in
right.
terms of if you think about 2 generations ago, my parents' generation, right? Knowledge about medicine or knowledge about the body or knowledge about chemical components or knowledge about this thing or that thing, you would have to go to someone knowledgeable or find the right book and know where to find that book and purchase that book or talk to that person or book an appointment or know where to go to just track down the right person who had the right information. Could take you weeks and weeks. And now, in a matter of seconds, you can just ask Google anything you want about anything, plants, medicine, bones, history, historical fact. It's astounding. So the whole concept of knowledge and accessibility about knowledge is totally transformed. There's a lot more of those kind of things, but those kind of realities would have just been unheard of, that you could just tap something in the palm of your hand and access any knowledge of any subject of anything at any time. It's kind of mind-boggling. Okay, so let's say L'chaim. L'chaim to the Rebbe's vision that we should open our eyes and see the revelation of messianic realities before us more and more. And the neshama of Menachem ben Mendel ben Levi Yitzchak should have aliyahs and aliyahs and aliyahs, and much nachas from all his chassidim. We're not quite into Gimel Tammuz, but let's just start with that. L'chaim. Okay, so now we're coming into Korach. So we know the story, right? What's the story? The story is that Moshe was the leader of the Bnei Israel, and he appointed his brother Aaron to be the Kohen Gadol, and then there was different members of the family that got different duties to do. But basically, Korach was a Levi and wanted to be a Kohen. And not only did he want to be a Kohen, but he wanted to be a Kohen Gadol. The way that he attacked Moshe, or kind of mounted a rebellion against Moshe, was to say, on one hand, we all holy, we are a nation, we are not almost a gimel, we are there. It began this evening a minute or two ago. Wow, Yakova, a minute or two, that's just when I said L'chaim. I thought we have to wait till like 9:15, because that's Havdalah time, is 9:15 or 9:20. So maybe you're right. Okay, I hope so. Or we can always say L'chaim again. So Korach, he rebelled against Moshe, basically saying, on the one hand, you say we all holy, but then you electing certain of your family and certain people to be sort of more holy than others. How is that possible? Why is that happening? It doesn't make any sense. And he got 250 very important nobles to join him in basically a theological but political rebellion against Moshe. Okay, so I wanted to read to you, or read with you, the analysis of this idea from Dov Ber Pinson, because it's very interesting how he approaches it, because he talks about a different reality for Kohanim and Leviyim. And let's just read it together and we'll analyze it together. So somebody's saying L'chaim, L'chaim, so L'chaim, L'chaim. So the Torah reading this week begins with a rebellion against the leadership of Moshe and his brother Aaron. Moshe is the leader of the people, and Aaron is the Kohen Gadol. Somehow
I'm dialed in on 2 devices.
Somehow I am.
It was me. I turned off my other one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
This bracha was frozen and I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
Everyone
Okay.
was frozen.
All right. Well, I muted the other one. Okay. The
I
Torah
turned it
reading,
off.
the Torah reading opens with the words Korach together with 250 men, chieftains of the congregation, assembled against Moshe and Aaron and said, the entire congregation are holy, so why do you raise yourself above the assembly? It seems that this argument makes perfect sense. If the entire congregation is holy, why then would we need to appoint one leader and one high priest? Why should one person be singled out for distinction when the Torah says, you'll be to me a mamlechet Kohanim, a kingdom of priests? This means that potentially each and every one of us is a Kohen, and in fact, a Kohen Gadol in a sense. And it says actually that in the future, this spiritual status will return to all of us. We'll all be like Kohanim Gadolim, but it wasn't like this then. So why was Aaron the one and only Kohen Gadol? On the surface, Korach is a Levi, not a Kohen. And that was not enough for him. He wanted to be a Kohen as well. On a deeper reading, what Korach desires is to manifest a transcendent reality on earth, one that is beyond plurality and distinction, in which sameness rules. He wants himself and everyone else to all be Kohanim. So this is a very important line, and a lot of blood has been spilt around this. For example, if you think about the fact that communism is an idea actually started by a Jew. He was an assimilated Jew, but Karl Marx was a Jew, right?
Yep.
Not an identifying Jew, but a Jew.
We can't get out of our own way.
But
oh my
Jews,
gosh.
Jews, sometimes they have good ideas that go very, very wrong, or they have things that turn into terribly evil institutions, but somehow at the root of it was something not so terrible. And the idea that why shouldn't everyone be equal? Why shouldn't everyone have equal access to the money, to the resources, to everything? Why should we have some people better than other people? That's basically what Korach is saying. Why do you have some people who have status and yichus and the rest of us are not? Why are some people elevated, especially when it comes to spirituality? Aren't we all equally special? So the Rab Dovbe Pinson brings a very interesting distinction, which I've never really come across before, that there's a distinction between Kohanim and Leviyim. And the Leviyim would perform music. They were, you know, that there were schools, music schools in the Beis HaMikdash. There was in the actual built Beit HaMikdash, not the Mishkan. There was a whole like area, like we have an orchestra pit in front of a stage.
Wow.
At many performances or musicals. There was a whole pit where the Leviyim would play all these different instruments, and the Leviyim would actually learn and spend a lot of time perfecting singing and musical instruments. They were basically a very developed and evolved choir, but the Leviyim were not quiet. The Kohanim were quiet. What Dovbe Pinson is going to build up is that the Leviyim are a celebration of difference. All the Leviyim singing and their different notes forming a melody and playing their different instruments forming a harmony. And the Kohanim did all their service in quiet, chash, in silence. And he's going to bring a very interesting reality from these two different things of the Leviyim with the individuality and the Kohanim with their quietness. So just watch, let's just see. So in the Mishkan and later in the Beis HaMikdash, the service of the Kohen was performed in silence, whereas the service of the Levi was performed with a lot of noise. The Leviyim were the singers and musicians who enhanced the ambience of the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash. The Kohen's silence represents a transcendence of the world of separation and plurality, and immersion in a world of unity. So if you've studied Chassidus, if you've come to some of our Tanya classes on a Monday, or even if you haven't, you'll know that we talk about a Seder Hishtelshelus, which is a step down ladder from a place where God is all, everything is godliness. It's all unified. There's nothing else but God. That's the world of Atzilut. And then as the worlds kind of step down, we get more and more complex. There's more and more veils. There's more and more vessels of reality. Reality exists in more and more separateness until in the world of action, the world of Asiya, we have a multiplicity of creation. We have many different people with all their different names and all their different personalities and all their different individualities. We have many kinds of animals. We have many kinds of plants. We have a world of diversity. But when we say Shema Yisrael, we're saying everything is really one, but it just looks different because it's all wrapped in a different little package. But in essence, everything is really godliness. And if you took the elevator from the ground level where everything is packed in a different packaging and you went up, 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 if you went to the top floor, you'd see that it's all God. It's all godliness. It's undifferentiated. Whereas down in the world of action, it's very differentiated. So what he's going to tell us is that Korach was sort of in a dream. He was dreaming of an undifferentiated reality where everybody was sort of in that oneness, all the same, all equally holy. It's almost like a communist kibbutz kind of strange kind of thought that we know doesn't really work. So, but there is a place where there's something special about dreaming for that transcendent, but we'll see that it has a fault in it. So the Kohen silence represents a transcendence of the world of separation and plurality, and immersion in a world of unity. The Levi represents the hustle and the bustle of this world, the cacophony of self-expression and individuality. The Kohen represents the transcendence of this world, while the Levi represents the embodiment, and here is where the conflict came. Okay, so does everybody got that? There's transcendence. Did you say no, Susan?
I said, uh-huh.
Okay, there's transcendence where it's all one, and then there's the down here, the hustle, the bustle, the personalities, the people, the difference. Okay, Leviyim down here, and Kohanim kind of trying to help us reach a transcendence in a way. That was their function.
Well, they are, because they're bringing karbanos.
Say again?
I said they are. It's not in a way. They're bringing karbanos, and that is transcendent.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So that's right.
Did Korach have a job?
Well,
like something high up that he...
I think he was going to get something if he would have waited. He was going to get some important job, and then he did this, and then he didn't.
Right, why he would do this, you know,
he didn't have his patience. I think there was something that he was in line for.
Okay.
Anyway, Korach wanted everyone to serve from the paradigm of silence, which is beyond the world, beyond the individuality. Even though he was a Levi, Korach does belong in some way to the world of silence, a world where everyone is indeed equal, as everyone is the same in silence. In this sense, Korach was connected to the world of the Kohen. The name Korach, its numerical value is 308, the same as the word chash, which is silence. So there's some connection that Korach had to this quietness, this transcendent, there's some aspect of it where he was connected to that. Also, the word or the name Korach means bald, no hair. And it's interesting because Kabbalistically and in other things, it says hair is an expression of individuality. Each blade of hair grows from its own unique follicle. No two hairs grow from the same place. And there's an aspect of that. The absence of hair thus represents a lack of distinction and individuality. In fact, when the Kohanim became first anointed, they had to take all hair off their body, and they frequently cut their hair. So in a way, you could say, wow, Korach was striving for something very special and worthwhile. And in actual fact, I think the Rebbe spoke about Korach, and he said even though he rebelled against Moshe, he was looking for a kind of transcendence. He didn't do it in the right way. He challenged Moshe. He challenged Hashem. He challenged Moshe's being a shaliach of Hashem. He was a rebel. He got punished. But in a way, there was this aspect of reaching and desiring something transcendent. And just like the sons of Aaron, who offered the incense that they weren't commanded to offer, the Rebbe also said, you know, they were motivated by a very high desire to serve. The whole thing is, though, in Torah, it's not just enough to want to serve in a high way. You can't just make it up yourself and reach for transcendence if you're breaking the rules or you trying to serve Hashem in a way that's actually forbidden to you or hasn't been open to you. So as much as it's a claim and a reach for Kedusha, it's not the way Hashem wants to be served. He didn't choose you. He didn't ask you to do that. He asked you or wanted you to do something else. So in that sense, Korach's instinctive draw to serve as a Kohen had some validity. His intention at its core may have been noble. Let us all be the same. Let all of Klal Yisrael live as equals in the world of silence and sameness. However, he was missing a fundamental understanding of the workings of the world. Now, I don't know if you're picking up, but there's another story in Torah that we've recently read that has a very similar theme. Can anybody guess what it is? I don't know if you have enough
Can you give us a hint?
information to make this jump, but if you think about it, he was looking for like a holy reality, a holy existence.
Spies? The
Yes.
spies.
Yes, exactly.
Who is that?
The
spies.
spies, the spies.
Oh.
That one of the things that we say led to the spies making their tremendous mistake is that they had the wrong idea of spirituality. They thought if they go into the land of Israel, they're not going to be surrounded by the cloud of glory. They're not going to be eating man. They're not going to be in this kind of embrace of holiness that protecting them from real life in a certain way. They actually thought that that was higher and better. And so when they made that choice not to go into Eretz Yisrael in some way, and we've learned this in the Hayom Yom, actually, that a Yetzer Hara, we've also learned it in, I think we've learned it in Tanya, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's in the Hayom Yom, that a Yetzer Hara can dress up as a very pious chassid. And the Yetzer Hara can say, isn't it better to be holy in the midbar than getting our hands dirty, fighting wars and having to plant seeds and grow food? And the Meraglim were like, no, you're wrong. We don't want to spend our life in this bubble of the midbar. We want to enter into real life. And so Korach, again, making the same error. Everybody's not supposed to be Kohanim. No. Mm-hmm. People are supposed to be Yisraelim and served by the Leviyim, and only a very specific and select few are Kohanim, because that's not the general way. We're not Malachim. We're not in this transcendent realm. We're in the realm of who are you? Who are your what is your strength in the world? What is your mission in the world? What is your identity in the world? How are you going to serve? Who are you? And what can you do to make the world a better place? Not being into this oneness, sameness, sort of fantasy. So
I thought the whole problem was that he was jealous of Moshe. What that
so
Moshe,
Was. But
so
that's how
that
he
also
loved him. He
so
was.
at
I actually have a miracle that I did it on my computer. Now you can hear me. But anyway,
yes, it is a miracle. Of course, there's different. It is a miracle. I'm so happy that I can hear
on
you.
my computer.
You're
I'm on my
good.
computer.
Mazel
So,
tov.
so there's different ways to look at Korach. One way is to just say he was jealous. He was jealous, and we could make him small, but he had 250 of very holy people that went with him. So what this approach is trying to do is to try and say the lowest way to judge him is he was just jealous. But if we try and understand what he spiritually was motivating him, maybe there was a misconception of something, that he misunderstood something about Kedusha, and it wasn't just his jealousy. And maybe in the end, we do know that it's not that he wanted everyone to be Kohen Gadol. He wanted that for himself. So there was an element of ego in him for sure.
Mhm.
But what this is saying is that not only was there that element of evil, jealousy, but there was a fundamental problem with the way he was looking at reality,
Right.
not just the jealousy.
You would have thought he would have learned from the surprise,
Well,
He-
it seems
he-
like sometimes people don't really learn their lessons so very well. So,
Well, when I'm saying jealous, I should have said that he thought he should be doing a certain job.
He
I don't
thought he
remember
should be
the
doing the
details from
cooking.
last year.
well,
Last year we did the
complete,
Parsha.
you're completely right, because on the one hand, he's saying everyone should be the same and everyone, but if you're going to choose a Kohen Gadol, it should be me. And if there's
Right.
going to be one, there shouldn't be one. Everyone should be equal. We should all be Kohanim. But if you're going to choose one, it should be me. So two things: the self-interest, and it should have been me, is there. But there's also this other thing of, if all the Sforim in the room are holy, why do you need a mezuzah? If the whole tzitzis is techeles, why do you need a special string on the? If the whole
So you
garment
like
is
this
blue.
communism idea, right?
So
That
it's
everyone should be the same. Okay.
right. So there's this other idea, and also there's the idea of Shabbos, right? That Shabbos is specifically distinct. In the 6 days of the week we work, but the Shabbos day is separate. It is removed. It's not just all the days are beautiful and holy. So now real shalom is found in wholeness and harmony, not in sameness. There has to be this connection of different people who are doing their own individual avoda, but kind of respecting the differences in each one. So in response to Korach's rebellion, Moshe replies, Boker ve'yoda Hashem. In the morning, Hashem will make known who is the chosen. And then we have this beautiful thing where all the different heads of tribes, and everybody brings a stick that ends up sprouting blossoms and almonds. And of course, Aaron's staff sprouts. Well, no one else's staff sprouts, but Aaron's staff sprouts blossoms and almonds. And it's clearly that he's the one that's chosen by Hashem and chosen. Moshe was a mouthpiece for Hashem. So Moshe is telling Korach, at night it seems as though all are the same, because in the dark we don't see the differences. However, in the morning you will see that each of us are individuals and unique. Though we are all holy, we are not all the same. Each one of us has our unique qualities that we need to contribute to the world. I just want to mention at this point a Harvard commencement address that I actually watched on Facebook, and I shared it to my Facebook, and I'm going to share it to this chat when we finish the class. It completely blew me away.
Totally.
It was really amazing. A young man, his name was Noach Eckstein. He has a Muslim grandfather,
Right.
a Jewish grandfather. His mother's a Christian. His mother's a Jew. His father's
right.
a Christian. And he spoke to the whole of Harvard about how we need to acknowledge our own individuality, but at the same time, listen to everybody and respect their differences. It was really
What a speech.
very apropos to this topic of Korach, wanting kind of making this play for sameness, and taking Sori's point that it could have just been a disguise for his blatant
I think that was
jealousy,
a ploy.
or there was something in it that was fundamentally very flawed, trying to say that there can only be harmony if everybody's the same, and not appreciating that there can be differences and all of that. And now the thing about the Kohen is, we've said it before, that Hashem doesn't want the whole, in a way, in a messianic vision, at some point it says we're all going to be like Kohanim, we'll all be sort of Kohanim, we're a nation of Kohanim. But what that means is, in relation to the rest of the world, the Jewish people are, in a way, the symbolic Kohen. We the ones that are trying to bring a consciousness to the world. And the irony is that the place where we see that, really, ironically, is, and I don't even know if it's ironic, maybe it's not ironic, is the lengths, let's say, that the Israeli army go to be a moral army. It's very interesting that in America, when America was bombing Iran, and there was that one fighter pilot who got, he catapulted from his plane into Iran. I've never seen America do such a thing. They turned heaven and earth to save that one soldier. And my gut feeling was that Trump was working with Netanyahu, and he watched the Israelis not give up on a single hostage, and fight for the human life of every single person.
Right.
And he felt like, because I'm sure that Americans like let their soldiers just, one soldier, they turned heaven and earth upside down to get that soldier back. I think that Israel, as much as there's criticism about Israel, and we held to a different standard and all of this stuff, but everybody knows that the Israeli army, besides just being incredibly efficient and brilliant, they know that we don't abandon our soldiers. We have a whole morality of being that really the world hates us, but they have to acknowledge that we do certain things differently. I think that they know that, the ones that are not brainwashed, the ones that are not brainwashed, the ones that are looking at truth. Okay, so within us, Jewish people for the rest of the world are Kohanim, so to speak. We kind of try and bring the world to a consciousness of Hashem and a level of morality that is really different than many of the countries of the world. Within our nation, we have the Kohanim, but I've also spoken about before that inside each of us, we have a little designated Kohen, a little part of us that has to be, come out of the hustle bustle and reach for that transcendence. It is important that there is a Kohen and the Kohanim telling us to come out of the hustle bustle and reach for the transcendence. But Korach's proclamation that we should be in that space all the time is denying the reality of the Jewish presence in the world. No, we don't all have to be Kohanim all the time. We don't all have to stay in the midbar all the time. But that one aspect of the Kohen that keeps us connected, we have that. So the very act of standing apart as an individual to try and enforce anti-individualism proved that he was suffering from an inner conflict, because at the same time he wanted himself to be that Kohen, right? In our own lives as well, we all need to harmonize our inner opposites so we can have balance and shalom within and radiate this wholeness out to others.
You know, that is interesting because the 250 people that went with him, I mean, if he's making, right, what would, if he's now going to be their leader, so that's what he wanted, so to speak, then you're right, he kind of defeated his own argument.
He defeated his own argument, and there was a contradiction in his argument, but he presented his argument as a very socialistic, communistic kind of we're all equal kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what Rabbi Pinson's conclusion is, and very similar to the conclusion of this young man, this Noach Eckstein's conclusion, is that we do need to have harmony with other people who have different opinions than us, but it doesn't mean that we just eradicate the differences. There has to be harmony based on differences and acknowledgement of others. And just a small thing, that the idea that the almond, that the staves gave forth with almonds and blossomed, that almonds are the earliest flower to bloom in the spring in Eretz Israel. It's very beautiful. If you go to Eretz Israel, long before you think spring has even sprung in Eretz Israel, and suddenly you see blossom trees. It's like, how can there be blossom trees already? They're the almonds, the almond trees. So what is about that? So of all, I just want to say that something about this, because it's very beautiful and graphic. These almond, the staff, blossoming forth with blossoms and buds and ripe almonds. So of all fruits, almonds are the quickest to blossom, ripen, and be ready for human consumption. The attribute of speed characterized the priest's function in the Mishkan in two ways. And this is interesting. So although we're not aiming for transcendence, as Sori said, but we do have those special chosen people who establish for us a connection to transcendent. The priest blessed the people every morning, and the purpose of their blessing was to enable God's goodness to reach the Jewish people speedily and directly. That's really an amazing idea. If you think of the blessing for Hashem wanting to come down, and maybe there are obstructions in the road, or there are boulders, or there's the road isn't cleared for those blessings to come through, and then the Kohanim's blessing kind of clears the channel so the blessings can come through. And the priests performed their duties quickly and with aliveness. Inasmuch as the Jewish people are a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, we should learn from the priests' quickness to fulfill their duties. We should not relate to our divine mission in life half-heartedly or in a resigned way. We must respond to every opportunity quickly, energetically, and wholeheartedly. When we do so, we are sure that God's blessing and success of our efforts will not delay in coming. So, what were you talking about, Yakova, that you're not sure, that you weren't sure about? Oh, now you're muted, so unmute. No, you're still muted? What?
The day begins, that's all. Yeah.
Oh, about the day beginning?
Yeah, I wrote it all out. Hold on a second. I have to make a correction. Hold on, here we go.
Yeah, I think that the day that it goes really by when Shabbos comes out.
Mhm.
When Shabbos comes
Well,
out,
not exactly, but
No?
Shabbos, it doesn't begin with sunset, it begins with nightfall, like you said before. So,
Yeah.
Shabbos is the only day that begins at sunset. I mean, really,
No. Shabbos hasn't. We light candles
18 minutes
before.
before.
We light
we've
candles
also accepted Shabbos at that
and
point.
we
before
accept
Shabbos.
Shabbos, but you know when the day's begun, the next day more from Havdalah, because Shabbos is completely over when the stars come out, and that's when the real new day starts. Like
Well, yeah, the
starting
quote I got
kind of-
from, I mean, it's in my post, but the quote I got was that while a day in the secular calendar begins and ends at midnight, a Jewish day goes from nightfall to nightfall.
Right. So nightfall would be Tseisa Kochavim when we're ready to make Havdalah after Shabbos. That means Shabbos is over and now we're beginning Sunday.
Yeah,
We
that's
can
what
only
I
begin
about that.
Sunday after dark.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
wrote. I mean, in other words, but that's what I wrote.
Yeah, so it's kind of like nowish. Nowish.
Yeah, it's like between now and 20 something past. So
Yeah,
So would,
exactly.
It's like
Yeah,
a new word.
more like 20,
Right.
20 past, I would say.
yeah.
Anyway,
the day then, because like on Shavuos when you're learning and then you stop at a certain time and it's like when the first, I
well,
don't know,
that's it. That's in the morning when
right. So is
when
that
it's-
daytime? Is that you're ready your daytime?
Okay, so that's different because on Shavuos, you're already in the day started the night before.
Okay.
But when you're learning till it's till you can go to shul and do the morning service.
Mhm. So it could even be at like 3:30 in the
And
morning.
you can't do
technically.
the morning service until you could start to distinguish. I actually learned this when I was in Eretz Israel as a 17-year-old. I joined a yeshiva and they were studying a Mishnah, and the Mishnah they were studying is how early can you say Shema in the morning? And it said if you look a certain distance and you can distinguish somebody's face, whatever,
Wow.
it's kind of like early in the morning, and you could, now I'm forgetting, there's like, you could sort of make some level of distinction. That's when it's early enough. So it has to be a certain amount of, it's almost like right by daybreak. You can't say Shema morning service at 3 o'clock in the morning. It
Right.
has to
Okay.
be way closer to.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
this past Shavuos, we were learning all night. And
Mhm.
then it was like getting close to 5 o'clock, and then we're like, okay, I think we can go to shul now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because some
we
people
made it. We went through the night.
Yeah, that's what we used to do when I wasn't in Chabad, and we would do that, learn all night, then go to shul. Like
Right.
Chabad, like I know, like here, like they stop at a certain time.
Yeah, I try if I have someone to learn with. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's hard to do
learn
it on your own. I
all
know.
night and then go to shul at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
I must say, in Ein Kerem, it's quite amazing. The whole shul is there at 5
that's
o'clock in the
amazing.
morning.
Yeah,
Like all the women and men and
yeah, that's what. See, we don't do that, and I wish we
Yeah.
did. I wish we had a group here. It just doesn't. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it
All
for
right.
Korach. So yes, the simple translation, the simple idea is that Korach was jealous. He wanted to be something.
Mhm.
He wasn't happy with Moshe. But the idea of, this wanting everyone to kind of have like a communistic, socialistic thing is also relevant with the idea that that's not a Jewish approach, that we into the individuality and the uniqueness, and that people should really appreciate the uniqueness of their own personalities and their own selves, and that every one of us, every one of you, no one else can do your job. No one else can be you. If
Yep.
you're not fully yourself, you're not fulfilling the purpose of your creation. And just
talked
like
about
in
on
Sefer Torah,
technicity.
if there's one letter missing,
Mhm.
then the Sefer Torah is not kosher. So if one of us is thinking, I really have to be like her, and you're not like yourself, doing what's really your own, in sync with your own personality, then you're not really, like Hashem wants you to be you, doesn't want you to be someone else.
Right.
Can I just share something? just finished a book called Like Dreamers, and the whole book, I didn't understand it in the beginning why this was the focus, but it was almost every other chapter between the communist, socialist, kibbutz, even praise Lenin, this kind of stuff, in kibbutz, in Israel, versus the religious settlers, and the tension back and forth, until they come to more unity and fight for unity. But the whole book was this energy of the two fighting, and the kind of model that you just described. One, everyone the same, and then the other one, individuals. Very powerful, very famous book.
So I guess these topics have been coming up, because the labor and the socialists, I mean, the Jews, the whole country
They're the
was
same.
founded on, people who came from that Russian model, that communist model. And there's been a lot of stuff in Israeli politics around all of this.
And there's never been a successful story in the history of the world, and yet people like what's going on in their country.
They keep reaching
espousing
for
it. It doesn't make sense. It
I know
totally
they
doesn't
keep
make sense.
reaching for it, and it's mysterious because it's never really done very well.
Right. Well, I love the topic of individuality and uniqueness, and thank you so much for that.
This was a
And
really,
but let them teach that in the Jewish schools, which I don't think they do.
They don't.
Teach what? The topic that we
Individuality.
Well,
It was a book.
I think that some places teach it more than others,
The Chabad High School here does.
I was just about to say,
Rabbi
like,
Kagan. That's Rabbi
Rabbi
Kagan.
Kagan's school has had a good record on that, which
But
I'm
unique
really happy to
in that
say.
area. He's not typical.
Listen, I think, we just have to encourage it in the people we know and in ourselves.
Do the next right thing.
We have to encourage it in ourselves.
I'm sorry,
There
I
was
gotta
a book,
go.
I wish I
if you
could
don't
remember the
mind.
title of it, that came out about 15 years ago. A sociology research student or something came to Crown Heights and interviewed on
A woman.
tests for individuality, interviewed Beis Rivka girls, high school girls, and she fully expected them to be not very individualized because, they all wear uniforms and they're all taught, to conform to certain things. And they scored higher than public school students on individuality.
Wow.
The book had a weird title. It was like, I don't know the exact title, and I don't think I have it right, even the first word, but it was something like witches, bitches, and something else. I don't remember.
Wow, that's a very interesting thing.
I wish I could remember the name of the book because I'd love to find it.
Yeah. And Bracha, you talked in Hasidus class a few weeks ago about authenticity, which goes along with this.
I think that authentic Baal Shem Tov Torah is very much this idea. I think it is very much this idea, but it doesn't always come through. Sometimes it gets lost in translation, but I think it is an idea that's very precious to the authenticity of the Baal Shem Tov's Torah and of the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's Torah and the Torah of the Arizal, that every neshama is a facet of Hashem and unique and godly and has infinite creativity available to it. We mustn't dumb down. We mustn't try to make ourselves, reduce our godly capacity. We godly creatures. We infinitely creative.
I found the book title. It's Mystics, Mavericks, and Merrymakers. An intimate journey.
Mystics, what?
Mystics, Mavericks, and Merrymakers, an intimate journey among Hasidic girls by Stephanie Wellen Levine.
What a beautiful
Mystics,
idea. Mystics, Mavericks, and Merrymakers.
Again, Mystics, Mavericks, and what?
Merrymakers.
Merrymakers.
An intimate journey among Hasidic girls.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
The foreword is by Carol Gilligan, who I think is a pretty well-known author also.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get it at Finkelstein Library?
You can get it on Amazon. You might be able to get it at the library. Yeah.